Hello, it's Amy. I'm back with the Journal of Emily Shore. Today we are beginning with the entry for January the 22nd of 1839, which was a Tuesday. Senior Padre called in the afternoon, and we had a very pleasant conversation with him. I was very glad when he at last began about the horse, apologizing for not having sent it for some days, as it gave me an opportunity of expressing my contrition for keeping it so long the other day. He would not hear of any excuse whatever, but said he wished I had been strong enough to keep it 2 hours longer. I shall never be tired of saying how delightfully amiable and good Mr. F. appears to be. Goodness shines in every feature and is heard in every word. There is an uncommon sweetness in his countenance, the expression of Christian benevolence and Christian peace. January 24th, Thursday. Miss Freeman seems to be about 3 or 4 and 20 years of age. I have never yet chanced to see her out of her bonnet, and have no idea how she would look without it. She has a tall, slight, graceful figure and a pale face surrounded with light, clustering curls, large blue eyes, rather too prominent, but of a most gentle expression, and a sweet mouth which bespeaks at once her amiable disposition. Her voice is soft and slow. Her whole manner expresses a mildness and benevolence and goodness far beyond what is usually met with. I believe she is naturally shy and diffident. Actually, when she was first introduced to me at the Burnets, though it was only to me as Mamma was out, Mrs. Burnet told me she was quite nervous and unlike herself. January 25th, Friday. We were sitting at breakfast when there came a furious long rap at the door. We were very wondering what it could be, and agreeing that it was very like a Houghton rap, entered our friend, Mr. Vasconcelos, who had good-naturedly left his breakfast to tell us that the Vernon was come in, and to bring a kind offer from Mr. George of going to it in a boat to see if by chance Papa is on board. I cannot express our delight, for though we do not expect Papa by the Vernon, we may now expect the Dart in a day or two, as it is much the fastest sailer. The Vernon has had an excellent passage. On the strengthening of this information, and this being one of our butter-making days, I proceeded to put in execution a plan on which I had set my heart, to wit, to make a little butter entirely myself for Papa, who has a peculiar fancy for pure homemade butter. Accordingly, while Mamma was at work on the large portion, I had a little cream on a small basin to myself, and quickly produced and completed a much better butter than my honoured mother's, which I shall triumphantly display on table on Papa's arrival. Mr. Cross called again. It was after dinner this time, and I felt very cordial, though he interrupted me in old morality. The packet and Vernon were, of course, the principal topics of conversation, and as they are with everyone. We are now talking of the Dart all day, wishing, hoping, fearing, doubting, and I have even ventured to imagine myself this time tomorrow, 8 p.m., listening to Papa or talking to A. What if tomorrow's morning sun should show us the Dart? Has been our frequent remark. January 26th, Saturday. I woke after a night spent in very vivid and natural dreams of the arrival of the Dart and our meeting with Papa. Whether they will be realized today I cannot tell. Every knock at the door makes our hearts flutter. We think it may be Mr. Vass coming to tell us of the arrival of the Dart. It is as yet very early. There is snow on the mountains today, and very strange it looks contrasted with the verdurous gardens below, although the thermometer is not higher than 61 degrees Fahrenheit, which is cold compared to what it has been. Down rushes Mamma from the turret. There is a large vessel coming in, full sail. Up rush I, a brig, the Dart it must be. I feel 10 times stronger. I came downstairs. Mamma is at the Phillipses and comes back saying that it is not the Dart, but a king's ship, and that the Dart will not be in, says Mr. Helps, for a week. I am sadly disappointed. January 28th, Monday. I have been looking for some illustrations of scenery in Syria and about Constantinople, published in parts and lent by the Phelpses. I have no words to express my admiration. It really makes me sad to reflect that I can never see these magnificent and beautiful scenes. To travel in the Holy Land has ever been my first and favorite wish. Long have I even half expected that I would be some day gratified, but now I begin to give up, and to discover that it is but a baseless daydream, a discovery which every succeeding year compels me to make with respect to the fondest hopes and wishes of my hearts. Mine has not been an eventful life, yet for a long time past every year has been rife with what would have utterly astonished me could I have foreseen it all. What strange things may fill its future pages. It is hardly less than 3 months since I dreamed of nothing less than living in Madeira. At this moment I care little where I shall be next. A continual sensation of disgust and dissatisfaction with myself gives me a frequent indifference to my own fate in particular, and then again my dreamy wishes return with double force. January 29, Tuesday. The joyful day has come at last, but not the joyful hour. Patience is now wanted more than ever. My hand shakes, I can hardly write. Morning rose as usual, without the dart, and as usual, shower and sunshine followed each other. A good part of the morning was spent in making an extra quantity of butter, and I again made a little roll expressly for Papa. When this business was over, I, much tired, sat down to rest while Mamma stepped over to the Phelpses. Soon after, a long rap at the door announced our good-natured friend, Miss Tellis, who came to give us another Portuguese lesson. But we had hardly sat down before a messenger from the P's announced that the Dart was in sight. We rushed up to the turret and saw her plainly. Notwithstanding our joy and perturbation, we thought it best to continue our lesson, which we did, though we made it but a short one. Mamma soon returned, and Mr. Vash shortly appeared to bring the news. But we hear that as the wind is against her, the Captain D, not so skilful as her natural commander, Captain O, she may be some hours before she can come in, perhaps not even today. Time went on, and as the Phelpses are just opposite, we conversed with them across the street and asked them when the passengers would land. At last Mr. Phelps, who had been watching from his turret, told us that in 5 minutes the boat would be on shore, that it was but a 10-minute walk to the house. It was then 5:15, and I went and posted myself at the end window of the drawing-room to watch for their coming. Presently a little pencil note came from kind Mr. Freeman to tell us that Papa had actually arrived in the Dart, the first certain intelligence we had had. I resolutely sat at the window for more than 3/4 of an hour, alternately looking at the clock opposite and at the corner of the street where they would first appear. I was rewarded in my perseverance, for I was the first to exclaim, "Here they are!" Down flew Mamma and Louisa, and in a minute or two came the whole party, without Mr. Burnett, who had brought them here. Oh, it was a joyful meeting. I hardly know what we first asked or said or told, and though we sat up talking till 11:30, neither party had exhausted all their news. Papa had brought us much interesting intelligence, which I have not time to write. But the most important and joyful news of all is that Richard has passed his examination most honourably. There were 31 candidates, of whom 7 were plucked, and R was in the first class, consisting of 3 whose merits were so equal that they cannot give the preference to any, so that R has none above him. The kindness of the Duckworths has been beyond all praise. We owe more to them than we can ever be sufficiently thankful for, and indeed all our friends have laid us under the greatest obligation to them. January 30th, Wednesday. Papa walked with Mamma to Holloway's boarding house to call on Mr. Charles Park, an invalid youth residing there, and afterwards to the Praxa Academia, and came back perfectly enchanted with the beauty of what he had seen. He declares Madeira far surpasses his expectations. Also, Papa is well satisfied with our accommodation here, and with Madeira eating and drinking, and likes the Milho particularly. To my great joy, he is highly pleased with my butter. We are much amused with the astonishment of Arabella and Mackworth at all the novel objects which meet their view, and it gratifies our vanity to sport our Portuguese before him in talking to the servants. January 31st, Thursday. A succession of visitors called chiefly on account of Papa. They began with our favourite Mr. Freeman, whom Papa likes very much indeed. He and Papa talked about the Oxford tracts and the parties to which they have given rise, which have actually found their way even to Madeira. Mr. Lowe being a strong partisan, and Mr. Page something of the same kind. And we will leave it at that today. We are at the 10-minute mark, and we have completed the entries for January of 1839. Tomorrow we will begin to read February of 1839.